So, what is your name?
Okay, my first name is Shailess, Sharless, and the last name is Sharma, Sharma.
And tell me your story.
Yeah, my story, because I have lived in 4 continents: India, Africa, England, and USA. So my story is divided in 4 parts. When I was very young, my parents immigrated to Africa, Ethiopia. Addis Ababa is the capital city of Ethiopia, and it's on the mountain. So you cannot drive, bike, you cannot, it's too much up and down. So either you go on the horseback, right, or car. And the whole city is surrounded by jungle of eucalyptus tree all around. And in those days, there was no pollution, It was so pure,
Could you hold this a second? I'll just get my coffee. Hold on a second. You can go on. So you were saying?
Yeah. It was surrounded by eucalyptus tree all around, and the air was so pure, Now the problem was there that these Africans they speak, I forget what they speak, their language, Sinhalese or something like Sinhalese. And they don't know anything about trade or anything at all. So Indians in India thought that if we can do this, we can make good money. So one Indian went there first to have a look, right? And then eventually there were 15 people there. And what they did was they opened a shop in villages, not too far. And, from long time, for a long way, for one day's walk, they will come to buy things.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, because nobody can buy anything at all there. It was so.
And what type of things would they buy?
Eating, clothes, all the things necessary for living. And so many of them have not seen so many things they sell in those days. Now what happened was, there was about 10, 15 people all together. And how can they live without food, right? They wanted to eat something. So in the beginning, they used to eat anything, Even Hafsis makes all these, they are called Hafsis. Then I am a Brahmin, right? So Brahmin.
Are those the kind of the superior caste?
Yes, it's a holy caste.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it was so holy. Can you imagine? If some merchant invites us to do a religious ceremony, say if there is a baby or boy born in their family, they will, to thank God that they are giving us a God, so they will do and arrange a religious ceremony, puja, that means they worship, and not only that pure, but at the same time they invite, say, 15 people, right? And 15 people will all sit down, right? And what they call is, here you have a padri, what do you call it in the church? Priest.
Priest, yeah.
We have an Indian priest, Hindu priest, Brahmin, and he will do some ceremony like make a fire here, and so many things they do. But at the same time, he will talk about, there were two main kings in the past. There was Lord Rama and Lord Krishna. Now, Lord Krishna went to Dwarka, a city near Porbandar. And even now, I have visited that Dwarka city. And it's really surprising, in those days, how can they build things like that? But they say that it's just like cultures go and come, new cultures, like there was a Greek Empire, then there was a Roman Empire, like in India there were so many, couple of empires, and two of them, Lord Rama and Lord Krishna, they were actually kings, right? Actually kings. But because they have done so many good for the people of India, that they worship him like a god. He is, for the what they call it, what is the religion?
What is a religion?
Can you define it?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure how to define a religion.
No. On the whole, in India, for example, we had, except Brahmins, all the other people, 4 out of 4, except Brahmins, nobody read or write. No, nobody at that time. And so they don't know anything about God or anything at all. So Brahmins were the only one who studied Sanskrit. And you know how they study? When I was in Africa, but when they are about 5 or 6 years old, right? And they send him to his guru, where he is going to study. With each individual, they say, this is a teacher, right? And if you want to go and study with him, because he has a lot of knowledge, they will send their son, 5 or 6 years old, right, and make a ceremony, and they send him where this teacher lives. He lives in a jungle-like, Everything is natural there, nothing artificial. And they go there and they live maybe 5 years, 10 years, how much they want to spend their time. They live there and teach, listen and learn. At the same time, they have to make all the people, they have to make all these things like cooking and cleaning, and so they give 2 things, practically how to live. And then at the same time, they teach him about God.
Religion.
Yeah. So, in my thinking, religion at that time, I don't know about here, but in those days, were a set of rules, right? A set of rules for people to obey or put it in their practice, in their lives.
Can you give some examples of those rules?
Yeah.
Well, what are some examples?
For example, they told him that you cannot steal, you cannot kill anybody. He said, why that? Because if you kill somebody, and think about it, if somebody kills your near ones, then how you feel, right? It's the same thing with the don't steal. And most importantly, even now they say, most important is tell the truth, never lie. Never lie. And surprisingly, my mother told us, see, my father died when I was about 2-3 years old. I can't even remember his face. So my mother teaches all these principles and all that, And so, for example, at that time, because my father died, we were really, really poor. Right? And for example, if I have a dish, something like that, and I break it, then my mother asked, what happened? I have to tell the truth. Doesn't matter if I get beating, That is the most important thing about truth. And I put it into practice, some of these, not 99%. Yeah.
Every once in a while you do a little white lie.
What they say, that if a little white lie does good, and one thing they call it rags to riches, right?
Rags to riches, yeah.
Yeah. In my case, it was riches to rags. Because when I was in Africa, we have 3 servants.
3 servants?
24 hours. They have their own place of living. And when we grew up, my mother never did anything for us. If we want to go to sleep, bathe us, or, put us clothes on, everything. Nothing at all. And we are so used to that. And, when we went back to India, my father died, there is no place to live. So we went to live in my mother's sister's home, right? My mother's sister's home. And they have a business, right? So I went there. First day, we went there in the evening, suppose, in India, and we went to sleep. The next day, when we get up, I was sitting down there. So one of my cousins said, "What you doing here?" I said, "I'm waiting." He said, "Waiting for what?" I said, "Where is the servant?" So he said, "No servants here." He said, "Did you take a bath?" I said, "No." So he said, "Okay, I'll show you where." So he took me to shower, and I was standing there. And 5 minutes after he come, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm standing here." "Why are you standing here?" I said, "I don't know how to take a bath." So he said, "Okay, I'll show you." Right? So he showed me, right? And then I get out and put on new clothes, and my old clothes were lying in the... So he come again, he said, "Where are your clothes?" So I don't know, maybe. So you have to wash it. I said, "I don't know how to wash it." Can you imagine? Oh my God. So slowly and slowly, he put me in the routine, And first day I was thinking, I said, "My God." The next morning I told him I want to go back. He said, "You can't go back because your father sent you to study here." I said, "I don't want to stay here. There are no servants." So he said, you will get used to it." So after thinking a lot, I said, "Well, what can I do now? I can't go back, right? I have to stay here." So I determined this, okay, I'll stay here, make myself comfortable, and, learn everything I have to learn. So from that day onward, I decided I'm going to study. So I went to, first of all, primary school, and then high school, and then university, and I got my BS in physics and chemistry. And at the same time, my younger brother, I went on my own, but when my mother came, she also came back, and he's very bright, So he gave his, what they call it. See, in those days, you say there is about one state, and the whole state gives the examination for SSC or whatever they call it. And my brother was he's so good. He came 6th or 7th in the whole state.
Wow.
First 10. So the school arranges the ceremony. Yeah.
We should let you have your lunch.
Oh, yes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.